welcome back to Kadence Amplify. If you're just joining us, our sessions today are designed to build your learning, solidify your knowledge, and help you grow. We have some amazing speakers who are going to give you some great tips, advice, and information. All of our sessions are being recorded, so you'll have a chance to not only rewatch the ones you see today, but also to watch the sessions in the other track or those that you won't be able to get a chance to watch live. You'll be able to see those on our Kadence YouTube channel in the coming weeks. You also have an opportunity to ask questions in the chat, and I'll bring them up during the Q&A after each speaker finishes their presentation. So let's get moving. Jessica Wangelin is our next presenter with how to format dynamic blog posts with Kadence Blocks. Jessica is a marketing and website specialist who started her online business as a home decor blogger in 2009 at decoradventures.com, where she wrote hundreds of articles to teach people how to do DIY projects and worked with many brand partnerships, gathering hundreds of thousands of page views on her blog. Wow, that's awesome. Her former career was in higher education. Now she is both a brand partner with a wellness company and runs her own marketing business at jessicawangelin.com, where she teaches entrepreneurs about marketing, website strategy, and content creation. Jessica is host of the Motivated Online Business podcast and offers VIP website design services as well as digital resources to use your website and content to promote your business. She lives in Buffalo, New York in a 120-year-old house with her husband and 2 children. Let's bring her on.
Hi there.
Welcome, Jessica. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we were just chatting backstage about the fact that we live about 80 minutes away from each other. So we're both here in Western New York. So we'll have to do lunch sometime for sure.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm really excited to hear what you have to share today. So I'm going to go ahead and take myself off screen, share your screen, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. So we are doing presentation here quick about blog posts, creating dynamic blog posts with Kadence Blocks. We would love to know if you are a blogger. Tell us how long you've been doing that for, or maybe you started blogging a long time ago and you put it aside and you want to get back into it, or you're just starting. Tell us how many posts you've written. That would be really fun to know, right? To see how many we can get up to. I'm sure people have written quite a lot. I've written about 450 or so in my time, but that might be a small number compared to other people. So here's what we're going to cover when we talk about blogging, designing blog posts, using Kadence on your site, and all of those things that go with it. We're going to talk about blogging for your business really briefly, so we can just get a good understanding of why blogging is really valuable these days and some things to think about to prepare you to create really amazing posts. What does that look like? What are some of the things you should have ready? Then we're going to talk about formatting your posts right in your design, right when you're creating some blogs on your site. What are some things to try? What are some great blocks to use for that? And give you some ideas for how a post can look like, just go from plain text to being really visually engaging and exciting for your audience to read. And then I will share my screen and we'll do some design examples of working with some of my favorite blocks, some that are really great to use in blog posts. So you can see some ways to customize a couple of those. Just a brief thing about me. I know Michelle said a couple things. Thank you so much for that great intro. I did start a blog back in 2009, which is the dinosaur ages of blogging, I think, pretty much. And that was a lot of fun. It really entered me into the world of being strategic about writing, about getting better at writing, about the online world of Pinterest marketing and email and website design, of course. So that was really fun. And now I run my own business where I help other people use their website as a major tool for their business, specifically focused around the content that they have. So their blog posts, their offers, and things like that. But I do write about a lot of other fun things, lifestyle topics and productivity and such. Here's a couple of quick pictures, just a little bit about my life. So that's a couple of photos from my DIY blog, my family, a bit of traveling. I got to work with a lot of national partners on doing some different posts. So that was really fun. In the bottom right-hand corner, we are super hosts of an Airbnb. We recently renovated a family cottage, got renovated, which was a long project, but really fun and worthwhile. So that's kind of our side hobby, what we do for fun. But let's talk about blogging, of course. I've been joking with a lot of people in the online space about how blogging is back. And some people hear that and think, well, wait a minute, did it ever really go out of style? I think that what we have found is that long form content has become really more increasingly popular again over the past year, year and a half, things like that. Short form is definitely has its place and it's really fun and people use it. But blogging, long form content, even podcasting and videos really have a great place in your business model, particularly for some of these reasons. So number one, this can really streamline your communications that you do. You can use blog posts to educate an audience, to entertain people, of course, to teach them how to do some things. And you can put a lot of things in that in terms of educating potential clients or communicating with customers, helping do some of those things that you wish people knew before they worked with you and your company. There's obviously a lot of repurposing options when you are working with long form blog posts that can go to social and go to other formats and things, which makes it a really great use of your time. Blogging has a very long lifespan in terms of when we look at the kind of the content rainbow of things that are out there. When you compare short form type posts to blog posts that can last you for years, it's a really good investment of your time for your business. And then, of course, it can be a great educational resource. So thinking about what this looks like when you are working with a specific audience, how you're teaching people things, how you're using it then for your own self-reflection and growth. Because, of course, people blog about a lot of topics. So, you could be blogging about your family history or the travels that you do. So it's a really interesting way to kind of match that into your lifestyle and create a history there for, future generations to use and people to access, along the way. So here's some goals we keep in mind when blogging. If you haven't kind of reflected on some of these, it's really helpful, of course, when we are providing high quality content. We know that that's what search engines are looking for these days. So that should always be your top goal, really, when creating posts. We always want to make sure that we're engaging our readers. Obviously, we're writing for a specific reason. But then there's a whole kind of plethora of other things that you can invite people to do when they're reading your blog posts. So maybe you want them to complete a form. Maybe you want to showcase other content, or perhaps you want to provide them with the next step, like to fill out something to potentially work with you or book a call or request a quote or something like that. So when we think about blogging, we want to remember that it's a really great idea for people to get lost kind of in the rabbit hole of your blogs, of your site, and for them to click around, spend a lot of time there, make it like comfortable and exciting for them to engage with your brand that way. So what do we mean when we talk about creating and designing blog posts, specifically, on a website with the Kadence Blocks? We are talking about creating really exciting content layouts that are easy to read, that are like visually exciting, that engage people, keeps them reading more, and helps people stay interested in what you are sharing on the material of the actual post. So a couple of reasons why we want to do that are as follows. Number one, doing this can really help to highlight your message when you are sharing things about your brand. We know that these days there's a lot of tips about formatting text the right way because people kind of are skimmers. We want to see and we want to get what we want to know about very quickly when we're looking at information because of our attention spans. So highlighting messages and really formatting things nicely can help you get across the points that you're looking to make in a post. Also, of course, helps increase, some read time that people are going to spend on the post. Again, people can find things easily, especially when you use blocks like the table of contents and things like that. They get to kind of scan and find what they want. It also, though, can help sell for you. So there's a lot of really fun ideas where you can put different things into a post, like, here are the products that I mentioned in this blog. Here are the affiliate items that go along with the topic that I'm talking about here. Here are the products that I'd like for you to take a look at and things like that to enhance kind of, again, the reader experience, help grow your business that way. Next, creates engagement. Of course, there's a lot of ways that you can put things in posts like videos or helping people to really know your personality, help them get to know you personally, helping them leave a comment, finding other ways to, reach out and connect with you, things like that. Of course, also well-formatted blog posts are great for SEO because having well-structured, long form tail, what am I saying? Like long keywords, those kind of things. And all of the things that go around with SEO can really be built well into a well-designed blog post. And then lastly, it enhances your brand. So if this is something that you focus on specifically in terms of creating long form content, helps you kind of organize those thoughts in terms of categories that you can have on your post, things like that, and get to connect with your audience, of course, more. So here's like we kind of just reviewed a couple elements of a successful blog post. But this is just so you can kind of keep in mind some of the things when preparing to actually do a blog post, thinking about that compelling title. What are the introductions and the body copy and the headings that you're going to have into a post? What are the things that you are going to do that are going to make it visually appealing for someone to want to read through? What are some things that you want people to take in terms of their next steps? What are call to actions that you might have, and perhaps any other content that you might be looking to promote. And so we're going to share some of these things when we get to the design part. But here's a couple other quick things about just preparing for writing. When we're going into write a post, these are some things that you want to have before you go in to actually do that design. Of course, you want to have the text that you're going to write, the copy, and any kind of supporting photos that might go with the topic that you're writing about. We want to make sure that our text is organized, that we don't just have a block of copy. We do have it broken up into paragraphs. There's definitely some subheadings in there, H2, 3, and what, not however far you want to go with the headings on your post itself. You know what kind of category you're organizing it into. This is really helpful when you're pulling in other posts to show on a design, and when you're asking people to read more about that specific topic. And again, calls to actions and other things that you want to have. Helpful to know. Sometimes it's really great to make these into patterns that you have on your site. So, or use for info boxes and things like that, that you want to share in the blog post itself. So this is kind of what we were just saying. I won't review all the text here, but titles, text, photos, other content going into our design. So let's talk about blocks and what are some amazing blocks that we use for Kadence. So info box is one that's really fun to use. And we'd like to know if you have heard of any of these, or which maybe are new to you, or you don't know too much about, or you love using yourself. Go ahead and tell us, because there's so many, of course, and everyone has their favorites, right? The post part. Now, there's a lot of different blocks you can actually use in terms of showing other posts. There's the categories, there's like the post excerpts, there's things like that. And we'll show a couple of those as well. Table of contents has become really popular in well-designed blog posts and really fun. So the table of contents block actually pulls the headings from your copy in the post itself, and organizes those into a table of contents. And then, like magic, it basically is anchor text that jumps down to the section when you publish that post for people to read specifically about that. The form block is really great. Of course, we always want to make sure that people are getting onto our email list, that we have a form that they want to fill out to either do that, again, request a code or book a call, whatever that might look like specifically for your business. The gallery blocks are really nice to use those images to enhance what you're talking about. We are visual people. We want to see images that go along with the post. But now you can do a lot of things, not only with just the gallery itself, but you can do the image over the text in some of the designs right now, which is a really fun block to use. They can change color, they can change to black and white, things like that. They can flip over and be a different image. So there's a lot of fun options for there in the blocks. Advanced text, of course, very common block that people use for our headings and things like that. And then the icon list is also a really fun one, because this can be a great way to highlight things like, again, affiliate links that you're sharing all in one place. So maybe you have a lot of copy written and your links are kind of in different parts of the post. Having a section where you have an icon list can pull all of those into one spot. It can also be used for things like, this is the order of what I just instructed you to do in my blog post. Or it can also be something like, here are your next steps to take to learn, to take this content further and, engage and use it into your life. So these are some of my favorites. We're going to go over a couple of those, but here's just some examples, kind of what I said. So if you look at the type of block that you're going to use, what are some things that you can do with it? What it might be an example like in an actual blog post itself. So info boxes are great. If you have a site where you're pulling a couple of different authors, you could do things like that in those. There's also the site identity part where you can kind of go along and talk about, showcase the brand of your site. Goes a little bit along with that. Posts itself, share related content, like we said, table of contents, forms, gallery for supporting visuals, advanced text, and then the icon list, like we had said. But here's some other posts to give you some ideas of what some might look like. I mean, there's so many to choose from. Site identity, like we had mentioned, there's a way to showcase your logo and your tagline for your site in posts, specifically if you're really looking to enhance your brand that way. There's a lot of blocks for navigation where you can bring in the menus on your site if you have specific menus created in certain parts. You want to talk about that information, allow people to click through to those. There's the accordion blocks where you can have people click on a specific title and it opens up some more information. This is really commonly used in FAQs and things like that. And then there's product carousels, which are great. So if you have a shop on your site and you can bring in different categories of shop items that you want to showcase in a specific post, also a really great way to get people to read about what you have, but then also to click through to read about those products and make some purchases and things like that. Advanced images, like we talked about. Tabs are really fun too. These look really nicely designed on sites where people click a heading and it reveals different points of information. You can summarize information really well that way. And again, make it look in a visually different way for people to not only just read text on a page, but have it be an engaging experience for them to kind of read through on the post. And then show more. This is also an opportunity you have to create a section where there's more content revealed in a specific design. So let's go, not to our next steps, but we are going to share our other screen to talk about, here we go, this one. Okay, we're going to go through some examples here of some of those blocks and what they look like on a site. And of course, if we have questions, feel free, of course, to jump in. Okay, so checking on the questions. Yes. So here's just an example post that I have written up on my site. Some text in here. We have a title. We have some numbered H2 headings going on, and we have some short paragraphs of text below them. So I put in some notes here, and I'm going to go and just show a couple of these in terms of what they look like in terms of adding and creating a post that looks really visually interesting, is engaging for your readers. So we know what this looks like now, right? We have a lot of copy. We just have some headings. It's just really all text for the site. So here, let's talk about adding a table of contents. So this is a really fun block to use. And if you haven't used it, what it does is pull the headings from your site and creates this. So table of contents, of course, can be formatted in a lot of different ways. You can go ahead and toggle on and off some of the different headings that you have here. If you just, like these ones right now are pulling the H2 headings from my site. But if you wanted to go and add something else, like this one is the H4, we're going to make sure that when we're in here, we're going to toggle on the H4 and you see that it shows up in the listing. So you could have multiple subheadings going under, you know, your hierarchy of content there to be able to see some different parts of it. But of course, when we look through the block itself over here on the right-hand design section of your site, you can go through and just look at all of the different options that it does for the actual design of that block itself. So we can toggle on and off the title. We can change like the font family of the title. Go ahead and do that if that matches maybe your brand a little bit more. Create some borders in here. Then we have some list settings, great things to do for here, changing how, you know, some of the spacing of the text. I like it when these are underlined when someone hovers over them. I just think that looks better, but of course that's everyone's design preference. And then container settings, of course. So say we want to have a little bit of a background here. That's really fun to do. A box shadow. I think this makes this stand out well on the page so people can very easily find this and see what is listed actually in the post itself. If you don't want to have numbers on your headings, of course, you can go ahead and take those off. There we go. The number goes away and we can do some different formatting that way. But the table of contents is really fun. We'd love to know if you've done it. There's some different settings, of course, for advanced features on that block itself. But this is really fun to use. And I like having it in post. It helps people to see exactly what's in there. Specifically, then you can highlight parts of the post that you actually want people to see. So just some different ideas about the table of contents. Tell us if you've used that one, of course. And then, of course, let's look at forms. So say you have a form that you want to add onto the site. This is the advanced form. And what you can do is select from any kind of forms that you already have pre-made on your site, or you can go ahead and create them in the form section. But if we're just doing the regular form, you can go ahead and customize the features on here. So this is a way for people to submit information. Nice to have like a title above it. So they know what they're filling out the form for, if you're having a photo with that, so people can see something perhaps that goes along with the form. And then working with, actions after submit is one area here in the general settings of the form that's really nice to pay attention to. You can separate different things in here, making sure that what's happening here is people are emailing you. There's some connectivity, which is really great, to MailerLite, Active Campaign, things like that, whatever you might have connected to your site based on your email service provider. And then email settings, of course. So this is where you want the information to go. You can name a subject for that. So you make it website form, something along that line, and things like that. And then there's other nice spam options on the forms as well, and other style options, of course, too. So button colors, things like that you can walk through, submit styles, labels, things like that. So that's really fun to have, the form. So if you're going to design something and you're going to have somebody want to fill out something, like book a time with me here or join my email list. We just make things like this. We go ahead and add this as a heading, and people get to see some of these kind of standout features really on the site itself. So that's fun to make, the form. And then we have advanced text. This is something fun I like to do. So what I often do on post is I write this about content here. So say you have a specific category that you want to highlight. What I usually do is I go ahead and make this a heading that I like to have. I can go ahead and align it. But this is great with the advanced text feature. And I'd like in this one to make a little bit of a background. So the whole section here then creates its own kind of visual element, stands out from just the white background that you might have, or a different color background on your site. And then, of course, you can go ahead and link that to anyone, whatever category, whatever link you're going to put in there in terms of where that's going to go. So this is something that I often do in post to call out the different content that you have. And that's why we talked about, think about where you want people to go. Do you want them to read other content, or do you want them to stay really in this part itself? So updating your website. So this is just another part here where, like, say for an example, in this section of your post, you were talking about products and you had linked to one of them. So we can see, once we start to look at all of the product blocks, there's a lot of them. So let's go ahead and look over this way. If we go and add a block here, you can hover over a lot of these and see what the different product titles and things like that are. Product summaries are really fun. Categories. Let's try the product carousel, but there really are a lot of different options that you can have here. If you wanted to add products that are from your shop tagged in just a specific, like, holiday, for example, it's a great thing to pull there. But let's add a product carousel, and we're going to see what that looks like. So right away, it pulls up several different products from my shop on the site itself. These are some digital items that I have. And we're going to go ahead and customize this so it looks how we want it to look. Right now, you can see it's boxed. There's 6 items here. We're going to take that down to 3, just so that people can kind of see a little bit easier how many there are. And then, of course, you can filter by categories. So if you have, like, just specific categories for your shop, I don't have any under that one right now. But so we'll leave all of them there. But if you have some, of course, it's a great way to pull up different types of things that you have. If you're talking about that, we can change our columns here to 2 or 3 or more, which looks really nice. And then, of course, there's some of the style. Unboxed kind of takes away that background kind of shadow on them. You can change the carousel settings, which is really fun. But this is a really nice element to add to your post itself, so people can, again, they don't have to find this somewhere else on your site. If you're talking about it in the blog post, it's really easy for the reader to see that information right ahead of them in terms of what that looks like. And then let's do an info box, because those are really fun. So info boxes are really nice. And as you can see, I put some notes here. So I so I can show some of the different elements of the info box. So this is a really nice kind of call out type of visual that comes up onto a post itself. When you're in the general settings here for the actual block itself, you can see different ways to kind of change what this might look like. And then, of course, being able to edit that border, how thick it is, what color it is, what this looks like, how you want it to align. Icon goes on the left or not at all. So the great thing about this is you can change so many features of it. In the style section, for example, if you didn't want it to be, just this color, you could actually change the whole background color of the icon box itself, which is really fun to do. You can actually change the media, which is kind of this like icon over here, which is really fun. You can make it an image if you wanted to. Then go ahead and select an image. So say you wanted to, what are we talking about here? We'll just do general. I recently did some fall posts, and we can go ahead and make that image whatever we wanted it to look like. And the fun thing here is the borders is what you can play with here. We have some different border. You can add a border to the image, of course, changing the size for that. Of course, edit what it looks like, how much space we have. Sometimes it's nice to see that white space around it. If we want to add on an image border, I think the 50 usually makes it about like a circle. If this were a square image, you could do that, but you can change that here too. So the image size we have based on changing that. Where are we doing? Let me think. Image type normal. Okay, I'm missing that right now, but you can change the image. Which one are you doing? Ratio. There we go. Yes, square. So there we go. So when we have a 50 image border on here, we get a circle for an image, which is kind of like an image mask, putting that on there. So you don't have to reformat and redesign all of your images, which is really nice. And then let's go ahead and take a look at, so if in the info box here, of course, you want to change the title, write something fun about what you're doing, changing the text, of course. And the fun thing about the info boxes is that you can have this learn more part here. We're in the styles tab of the info box, actual block settings, show the learn more. And then you can tell it what you want to do here. So like where you want this to go. Like if people want this, like you would just have that kind of call to action there. And there's also in here the like the text settings and the link settings as well. So what you can do is you can link the whole info box or just a part like when people hover over some of it, which is really fun. So those are the info boxes. Like, they think you can really help something stand out on a site, have it be a lot bigger than, any kind of text or titles or things like that, which is fun. So lastly, then let's look at the post blocks here. So this is really fun. Let's go over to this part so we can see all of the post blocks. So we have a list. We can have our posts come down on a list. We can have it where there's a photo included. We can have a carousel of the posts as well. And then like latest, most, recently written, published posts are in here. So these are fun to do. Let's click the regular post one and go ahead and look at some of the features for that. So right away, when we're in the block itself, we click on it, which allows us to do all this editing here of the actual post itself. And we can see all the different right now features that come up here. So it's showing 6 posts. I can see the blocking on the background here, and there's a lot of excerpt of the text coming out. So when you're at here, you can actually pick different pages, products, and other things on your site, depending on what kind of settings you have set up. But we're going to go ahead and change this down to 3 posts. Because again, I think the 3 columns usually looks really good on a site that's kind of general format of when we want to see other content and things like that. We can filter by the category here, which is really fun. So when you have your category set up, you can just pull posts that are based on specific things. So like this post, for example, we're talking about just a fall like to-do list for your business. But this one talks about, these posts are about content writing that I do. So you could, of course, have that match up to whatever you wanted to have. You could also exclude certain categories if you wanted all of them, but several to show. Which is a really nice way to customize and pull in the exact content that you want to have for that. Of course, and then we can change the layout settings. We can have them boxed or unboxed, which is fun. And then there's also the style settings for some of, for the pulling in the posts like here. We can go ahead. Let's make it a square image. Looks a little bit taller. Categories. You don't have to have the category if it's really just one. You can turn off like things like the author settings, etc. As well in here. And so we don't need any of that. Well, okay, so we're going to turn off the author because I'm the only writer on this. We don't need the date. and we are going to change how much content is here. So you see this text, this is previewing the text that comes from the blog post. We want to enable this excerpt, but we also want to enable how much of it is shown. And that's this part right here, enable custom excerpt length. This is kind of, it's not very long, but if you wanted it to be even shorter, you could make it just a little bit like that. And then people could kind of get a preview of it. But you can turn that off in general. Then you just have the titles and you have the read more, which you can also turn off. People can still hover over this and click right through to the blog posts. So that's one of my favorites. Also a really great way to bring in other content, to keep people reading on the site, to keep people doing, you know, some other different things with your posts and your content and really getting engaged that way. So lastly, another example of a post, we have some different things. So this is just an example of fall books to read for online entrepreneurs. So I have a list of books here that are really great. These are all titled already with their headings. So here's an example of one that I already put a little bit together so you can see, which is really fun to do in a blog post, is the accordion block. So it looks like this when we go ahead and search for it. We can see accordion and you'll get that when it comes up, which is really nice here. So you get to select the initial style of what you want this to look like. So you can kind of pick whatever matches your site or your brand, things like that. The rounded corners are kind of fun. And then of course you would go ahead, select right in here and be able to customize any of the things that you wanted here. So you would have like title or a question if you wanted about the post, and then being able to edit some of the things in this part as well. Column layout is really fun. Style setting, of course, you always want it to match. There's and a lot of settings in this one, specifically the accordion one, because you can change the background setting here, the color, you can change the font, text, things like that. Inner content is the answers that you would put in. And then you can also add other accordion items. So just looking at this one down here, like I had, like we have some questions that people might ask about your blog post and what you're writing about, where to find books, things like that. And other fun ideas for the accordion. So you could have a link here that shows, like, again, information that you might put in the post and things like that. So lastly, the search block is really fun. And I just want to share this one. So the search is really great because if people are reading and they want to look for other things, or maybe they know kind of your brand and your business and they want to find other things on the site, the search block is a great thing to have kind of just in the middle, not a bad thing to have on your site for people to look around. And those are some examples of the general kind of posts that we have for doing some different things with your content. So again, you can see kind of what this looks like once we have some of these elements like really put up onto the actual post itself. So you get a post kind of that will look a little bit like this, whether you have sidebar or not. We have, some ways for people to engage. We invite them to fill out a form. We invite them to read about other content. We share other things that we have in our business, our products, our links, etc. We highlight something here. It's a call out. It's about you, the author, or something else. And then we, just really promote our brand and other things. So you can really see how this turns a plain block, like just text blog post, into something really interesting and exciting for your audience to see. So with that, lastly, some of your next steps, let me just go here really quick and share some homework. So who wants homework? Anyone? I had a workshop last week and I told people that I had homework and everybody was like, what? And it was adults, we don't want homework. But just some things to think about when you're thinking about designing your post, what that looks like for your business. Improve the content of posts that you already have. Spend your time enhancing those, get them back into, the search engines, things like that are really fun to do. Plan some more posts. And while you're doing that, keep these things in mind. It's really helpful to think about, okay, well, what things would I actually ask somebody to do when reading this blog information? What would that look like in terms of a design perspective? And then go practice and have fun. Look through all of those design tabs and elements and style tabs on the blocks itself. They're really fun to search through, to customize, to really make it work for you. And don't forget about making the patterns too for reusing those in the future. So here's just a little bit of inspiration for you. So beautifully crafted blog posts aren't just words on a page. They're an invitation to connect, inspire, and keep readers coming back for more on your site, which is really great for your business. And then lastly, if you are looking to enhance your website strategy, and if you have a site maybe that's just kind of been sitting around, you haven't really paid attention to it, I invite you to take my free training. It is very quick, shows about what your website can do for you, how to think about what your website strategy is, learn about where to start with content, and then some must-have pages for every website. And lastly, thank you. Thank you for being here. I will stop the share and we will get back to talk with Michelle. But this is where you can find me. Have fun with your blog posts, go update some old ones, publish some new ones, and have a really good time with your site and with your Kadence theme as well.
Well, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Don't you feel like you dropped so much information in such a short amount of time?
It's a lot. And there's, when I was looking through all the block list, there's just so many, and it's growing.
It really is. At the beginning, you asked people to kind of tell us how many blog posts they'd had. And I have to be honest, I have no idea. I know we're in the hundreds probably by now of how many blog posts I've created over how many different sites. But we have somebody in the chat who, F Group Media says, been online blogging since 2005 and wrote 2,800 plus posts.
Yeah. That's a
lot. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Has had a break for 2 to 3 years now. Wants to start again. They can find out how to make a nice looking layout for the different kinds of blog posts. So I think that you've really talked about a lot of that for sure, and how that works. So so just a couple of quick questions I had for you. So when you talked about having multiple authors, so does that include like guest posts? And if you do have guest posts, do you give them a set of rules or requirements for how they would participate on your blog? Do you have them maybe just submit it separately and you style it? Or do you give them editor access? Like, how do you manage that?
That's a good question. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity for guest posts to work on your site. And it's really helpful for kind of outsourcing and getting content published on a regular basis. So usually when working with guest posts, it's great to give them as much as you can customize what they would want to write about, what you want, the topics to be about. And then in terms of actually having them format or not, that would often depend on their skill level for sure.
Sure.
So someone necessarily, you don't want to make them an administrator on the site, but they can be an editor, of course, and do that. And maybe you have an outline, you have a list to say, in this post, we're talking about these things. So make sure you have this pattern that's brought in about, this thing we're promoting at this time of the year, or include a, post carousel about all the other posts in that same category that you're writing about. Is pretty straightforward thing to do. And then make sure it edits and to edit that and have it work well.
Yeah, you don't want something that just like looks so dissociated with the rest of your website, right? So you want to make sure everything kind of matches and puts together. But there is a benefit to having guest bloggers, like you said, because they then tend to share that with their channels as well, where you might not already have a foothold. So that might get more people onto your site and following what you're doing. And then, so I know this isn't Kadence related specifically, but what's your creative process for planning blog posts for what you're going to do, or what would you suggest to other people? And people ask me that a lot. And like the first question is always like, I heard you could make money blogging. How do I do that? Right. And what I always first say is, well, if you don't have 12 things to say so that you could blog at least once a month, this is not the right business for you. But what is a way for you to tell people as far as ideation and how to start planning for future content?
For future content, right? Good question. So obviously it always starts, I think, with your business mission and what you're looking to do. I mean, some businesses are focused on really like affiliate sales, things like that. That's a different type of content than if you're doing like tutorial type posts, things like that. So what exactly is the mission, and what are you kind of trying to achieve at the end of the day? When people come to your site, what do you want them to do? So you always kind of start with that. And when it comes to kind of planning for posts and coming up with topic ideas, there's a lot of different ways, of course, to come up with topic ideas. And some of those, I did a presentation on this, and I had 5 and let me see if I can remember them all. But it was, number one, like, what are people asking about when you're doing the SEO like track? What are you matching up with what people are looking to do? How are you matching your skill set with what people are looking for online? That's the topic track. What is it that you're passionate about? Of course, what is your area of expertise? That's, your blog topic and what you want to find. By doing market research, of course, is a great idea. Asking questions to your audience, sending out email messages and getting their feedback. I've done that before, and you'd be just amazed. It's such a great source of information in terms of what people want to see that you can talk about. And then lastly, I think this is the fourth, if not five, is think about, like, in general, there's so much information out there, but a great way to come up with topics is to think about, like, what do you really wish people were talking about more? Like, what is it that you wish the conversation were about? Like, how can you use your blog as a platform for, getting to that place? That can really be a great way to get topics. And then the fifth idea I would say to people too is in terms of like client or customer onboarding. Mm-hmm. Are there things that you can put in blog posts that you don't have to then repeat on a regular basis to onboard someone, to your business, right? So what is it that you wish people knew before either working with you as a business or about your company in general that you could put into a blog post and then use that in your links and your email messages and your marketing communications for sure.
I think those are great.
So that's how to like come up with ideas, right?
You should write a blog post about that because I would read that for sure, right?
Yeah. But then you would ask about planning too. So it's like, any kind of process planning. Batch working here is really your friend. It's great to sit down and do a lot of writing one day and a lot of editing next day, and a lot of formatting another day, things like that. Yeah. And so just working with that and being consistent is a super huge key, of course, in blogging.
Because writer's block is real. So as much as you can plan ahead, it's better.
Yeah.
We had a question at one of the earlier sessions too about AI. So especially with blogging and blog posts, people want to know, like one of the questions earlier was, is AI going to take all our jobs? Well, I'm not asking you that, right? But what if you use AI at all in your planning process, or if you tell others how to do it, what is your suggestion with how you can use AI to work with you without replacing your voice and your thoughts as far as building your own blog?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you get AI to work with you? For sure. Well, there's a lot of different ways to use it. Definitely. I would say number one is like coming up with ideas, asking it for ideas, telling it about who you are and what you do. These are some things you're thinking about. Give me some ideas for a blog post about, XYZ topic is a great way. But not also that is using it to like repurpose things. So last week, for example, I did a 3-day workshop about getting your website ready for the holiday season. And so I had presentations kind of like I had done, and I took the audio from the presentations and I put it through an AI app that I have. And I ask it to either do whatever you want it to do. So do summaries, write a blog post about that presentation, write podcast show notes, things like that. So those are some examples of how I use it. But specifically, of course, so like you never want to really just have it write a blog post and publish that. Sure. You definitely want to heavily edit it, add your personality in, of course, and, make it work for you that way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I use it a lot for ideation, right? Like tell me 10 things people are asking about, 10 questions people are asking about XYZ. And then I can say, okay, I can answer those questions, or I don't really know that one and I don't see how it fits, but you can pick and choose that way. I think that's a great way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Any last words of advice, Jessica, before we go to break?
I would say if you're thinking about blogging or wanting to get back into it, or, stuck a little bit, have fun with some of those design elements, get back into it. Just pick one post a week and publish. It's a great goal to have in terms of getting your content out there, and really use those parts to make your site and your post stand out, really look dynamic with all the options that Kadence has. It's really fun.
Yeah, and visually stimulating is just as important as what you write on the page. I agree. And Kadence is perfect for that. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really appreciate learning from you. So have a wonderful weekend. And like I said, you're not that far away. Let's get together for lunch soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks.